So tell us about Clyde Brewer and the relationship they had with he had with Shelly.
Yeah, like I said, Clyde and his daddy and mama lived in Luling, Texas. They moved to Beaumont for work. You could get all kind of work. And during that time, Clyde had already started playing a little bit. He was 13 years old and was playing with a group called Patsy and the Buckaroos. They met my dad. He was with them at Playland Park in Beaumont. And he met my daddy met Clyde, realized he had talent, said, I'm reforming the Alley Cats, my band. Would you like to be in that band? Oh, would I? So anyway, there's a lot of funny stories that go along with that. So he reformed the Alley Cats. Did you want me to go tell that?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So he told Clyde, he said, look, I got a radio program tomorrow morning. All of them had radio programs. He said, come on out, and he said, you have to play guitar. Bring a guitar, and you can play in the radio. Oh yeah, man. So Clyde, first one to get there in the radio program, and he's sitting outside, has a little guitar, and about time for the radio program. All of a sudden, Daddy comes rushing. They always had a coat and tie on with some other guy, and they were having an argument. Walked right past Clyde, went in and played the radio program. Clyde's man, he's disappointed. Daddy never looked at him and come back out of the radio program. So Clyde, little Clyde, man, I wish I'd have known you was here. I'd had you in there with me. And he said, well, anyway, look, come out to my brother Ray's house. I'm staying with my brother Ray and his wife. Come out there tomorrow and we'll work on some of my songs. Okay, so Clyde couldn't wait. So he gets there, summertime, and there's my Uncle Ray in bed. The living room is just a bedroom, and sitting up in bed with his wife, my aunt Gladys, eating ice out of a bowl. Anyway, Daddy was in the back room, so they get back there. Daddy starts pulling sheet music out of his songs, and Clyde could read the chord symbol, so he's playing along. He said, "Man, we played." And I'm thinking, "Man, didn't this guy ever get hungry?" And so finally, Dad says, "Hey, you hungry? We'll go down to I forget the cafe there, and we'll get us something to eat." What Clyde didn't know at the time, Dad didn't have hardly any money. He was hoping Clyde would go home. Well, he didn't. So they go down there. Enterprise Cafe was the name of it. And they sit down there, and Clyde thought Daddy was big time, and he wasn't for his money. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'm not too hungry, Clyde. Why don't we get one ham sandwich and we'll split it? So they did. So that was his introduction. Well, anyway, then they started the Alley Cats, and Clyde was like 13 years old, just starting to learn to play fiddle a little bit. But Daddy realized this kid has talent. Well, through that, somehow, we don't know how, Daddy met Clyde's mother. Don't know what all happened, but somewhere along the line, Clyde's mama divorced Clyde's daddy and married my daddy. And then in 1945, I was born, and Clyde was playing. But then Clyde got better and better and better. Ended up playing, obviously, with his idol Cliff Bruner and different people in Beaumont. And the two people that really changed my dad's career was Jimmy Rogers and Clyde. Clyde extended it and changed it somewhat. And during that time, because my daddy met Clyde, and through Clyde he met my mother, and through my mother he met Jesus Christ. That was three greatest meetings in my dad's life. And after he got born again, he kept writing all kind of music, but he wrote some Christian songs also.
Now we don't know a lot, I guess, about the all the area in San Antonio back in the 30s. I wish we had some more documents on that. But now you do know about Beaumont because you're born there. So tell me about some of the places, either the places to play or the radio stations, or just kind of a map of Beaumont at that time.
Well, from what they tell me, of course, I was born and we left there when I was 6 months old, but Clyde told me all the stories over there. A lot of great places. The biggest place was called the Harvest Club, huge place, and Cliff was kind of the main star of it. And he had great, huge crowds packed at the Harvest Club. There was another place called the Forest Club on Old Highway 90, where Moon Mullican played a lot. Clyde played there. There's a lot of other clubs all over Beaumont, different places. Rainbow Club. Clyde said the doggonest fight he ever saw was a place called the Rainbow Club. Fights were very common because you get shipyard workers, Navy people on leave, whatever. They come to these places, they get drunk and end up in fights. Very, very common practice. And of course, Clyde was so young back then, he could come in and play, but he couldn't get off the stage because he was too, you had to go back and sit in the car till intermission and then come back in and play. And that's the atmosphere he grew up in. But Clyde said it was a great atmosphere for a young guy wanting to learn how to play because you could play all the time with anybody you wanted to, and all kind of great music. The big guns though in Beaumont during that time was Cliff Bruner and Moon Mullican.
Now you said fights. Were there any fights ever that I guess bled onto the bandstand or anything?
Yeah,
Ever
sure,
hear any of that?
sure they would. And of course, the musicians, most of them knew how to get out of the way. There were some musicians that liked to get in the fight. The Kennedy brothers, Shane Kennedy, Jack Kennedy. I mean, they were any fight they jump into it. And they said from time to time, even Moon would, you know. But most musicians had enough sense just get out of the way. You want to protect your instrument first and foremost, and protect yourself. But unfortunately, it was a common thing back then.
Now, as far as stature, when you're talking about the bandstand, we know Bob Wills. He may not have been the tallest guy, but he was definitely he definitely had a big character. As far as Shelly, how tall was he, and what was his character like on the bandstand?
You mean his actual height?
Yeah.
He was 5'11" and a half. He always regretted he never made 6 feet, and I did. But yeah, 5'11". No, Daddy was very charismatic. He always dressed really well, coat, tie, huge smile. He was a great MC, great on the microphone. But he had this motto: the show must go on. Clyde said they were playing a place one night, and the PA sitting went out when Daddy was singing. So he didn't miss a beat. He got some sheet music and rolled it up like a megaphone, stepped down off the bandstand, walking among the dancers and singing through it. Show must go on.
Well, I'm guessing a lot of his mentality probably was stuck back in the 30s and
Yes.
20s. Back then, you didn't have the amplification as you do these days.
No.
Back then, if you wanted your voice to be heard, you had to have a megaphone, or you had to have something for people to
Valley
hear.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I guess what was some of his like Gershwin? Were there any? What were some names of some people he liked back in the day?
He loved Gershwin.
Mhm.
When Gershwin came out with Rhapsody in Blue, Daddy loved that. I mean, his first love was orchestra. That's really what he wanted to do, but it changed with Jimmy Rogers. And he realized that's where the money was, and that's what the direction he went. He loved Dixieland music. He loved jazz. He was not a jazz player, but he loved it and appreciated it. He loved songs that had good melody, good words to them, good chords. Had a great ear for music.
Did he ever know? Because I was looking at some newspaper clippings back in the 1940s, and it showed different musicians at the time who were popular and had big hits, like Count Basie, Bob Wills, Benny Goodman. Even had Shelly Lee Alley on some of those, and that was something to see. Did he get to see those types of ads or papers, and what was his reaction when he did see it or find out that he was in the paper and a star?
Well, he loved to see his name in print. Anytime he saw that, he would clip it out and put it in his old scrapbook. He dreamed of one day seeing his name up in lights. I don't know that he ever did. But yeah, anytime he'd see it, and what he would use it for was to book jobs. He'd put in his scrapbook and he'd show people, here, this is what I've done. Years later, because he was smart, he realized they'd say, man, this happened in 1935 and this is 1945. So he'd go in and mark out the dates off of them, you know. But no, he knew how to promote himself. He would always tell Clyde, always tell me, you need to promote, get out there in front, let people see you. And that was not in Clyde's character or mine. We just want to sit back and play, but not him. He wanted to be out in front. He wanted to be the life of the party, and he wanted to be the show. And he had that type of personality. And like I said, everybody liked him.